Well, as we wind up this morning on News and Views, we end off with a story that surfaced out of Limpopo. We're talking about police shooting dead an Mtata traditional leader who was implicated in school extortion schemes. And joining me this morning is Dr. Witness Maluleke from the Department of Criminology and Criminal Justice at the University of Limpopo. Professor Witness, good morning to you, sir, and welcome to the show.
Morning, and good morning to the listeners.
Yes, clearly the story that has broken out now. We know traditional leaders, generally high profile people, so it is a major talking point with regards to this traditional leader from Mandela Park who was shot dead by members of the police as well. Again, we see some of the background. He was implicated in an extortion scheme at schools in the area. Him and his two companions were killed in this shootout. What do we know? What sort of background, just to put this discussion into context, do we know about the traditional leader and the incident that had taken place?
All right, we really need to understand that we have arrived in a situation whereby corruption rules our existence in South Africa. So it was not surprising to learn that the traditional leader in Umtata is being implicated into the crime in question or a practice. We need to acknowledge the fact that South African rural communities, if not urban, they've been witnessing such cases. And we were silent about the interventions of trying to resolve the issues in question. One should understand that this is an isolated case, but then it is not something new. Traditional leaders in other parts of South Africa have been subjected to hold community members hostage, whereby they introduce laws that are not conducive to the citizens of such communities. So, hearing of this case in question, there is nothing new. It's just that it is documented at this stage, and everyone will read about it in the media.
Yes. Now, clearly, we've seen, and what you are saying, obviously, is this possibly could not be limited to just one traditional leader who holds communities to hostage, basically through extortion and other means as well. And in this instance, we know that there have been clear cases where have been implications in extortion schemes in the area. Just to understand, obviously, with communities and the power that these traditional leaders actually hold in holding communities hostage, Prof. And I'm sure, there's a lot that can actually be said about this.
Yes, in any community that is rural inclined, we are under the command or leadership of a traditional leader. That's number one point. And we have to obey to the rules that the traditional leader try to convey to the community members. For example, a traditional leader, apart from the bylaws, can come and say, during this period, everyone in my village with that entitlement to say must go to bed, for example. The taverns must not work until this point. So it becomes easier for the traditional leader to even become corrupt and try to rule his or her own community in an illegal manner because they have been given self-entitled powers. We don't know where the powers come from because I don't think the constitution is clear on the way in which the communities or rural communities are being run in South Africa. You go to any village, a traditional leader is a respected person who makes decisions. If there is a project in that community, the traditional leader will be responsible for hiring. That's where corruption comes in, and they feel like they have ownership to the community members, to the land that is available in that community, so they can sell anything that is within their community. That is the reason they're now having powers of even becoming leaders of extortion in general.
Yes, interesting, and obviously coming from your side in the position that you hold, and obviously understanding criminology, criminal justice as well. In terms of from a legislative perspective, looking at it, what sort of laws actually govern traditional leaders, what sort of checks and balances are actually in place to ensure that they don't overstep their mark or their mandate or their roles even as traditional leaders.
Yes, we the constitution is clear on that. If you go to section 112 about the powers of traditional leaders, and apart from that, we have Coxter, which is clear in which in ways of behaving or conduct of the traditional leaders. But then the question is, who do the evaluation and monitoring to the traditional leaders in relation to their behavior? We have seen some of the traditional leaders, well-known traditional leaders, taking the law into their own hands. Some torturing community members, and they go to prison, or they get arrested. But in most cases, they come back to the society and practice the same patterns of behavior. What we need to understand here is there is no monitoring, there is no evaluation in line with the implementation of the powers that are vested into the traditional leaders. And the Coxter, they need to really understand how the communities are responsive to the mandate or instructions of the traditional leaders. But we really, again, need to be knowledgeable that the traditional leaders are too many in South Africa. Let's start there. And the communities that they serve are many as well. And it will be an impossible mandate for the coaster to go to each and every community to understand how traditional leaders behave in relation to the oversight. So we are sitting with a dilemma whereby there is no oversight, there is no monitoring, there is no evaluation of how they treat the community members. Thus, we are sitting with cases of this kind, whereby the community members, they don't have a say around their asset within the community that is being touted as a custodian or a jurisdiction place that is driven by the powers of the traditional leader.
Well, thank you for that, and thank you for your time this morning, Professor Witness Maluleke, for taking time out and talking to us. And we wish you all the best. We do appreciate you taking time out.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Professor Witness Maluleke from the Department of Criminology and Criminal Justice at the University of Limpopo, which brings us to the end of this morning's edition of News and Views. Next up, introducing Africa Muslims Agencies Fired Up with Hafiz Imran Chunara, the CEO of AMA. The topic this morning: pay now, play later. And with that, I'm signing off. Have yourself a great Jummah, inshallah, a wonderful weekend as well. And until we meet, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.